Hey there, and happy Friday to ya. We yet again made it through a whole other week. Hopefully this is working. Hey, Kyle Chips. We're going to be talking to Tony Angelo here today, just kind of catching up. It's been a long time since he and I have had the chance to really talk, and every time we do talk, and I swear it's like every single time we're like in the middle of, hi Brock, it's been a while. Harris, I see you popping back in there. Morris, every time that Tony and I get a chance to talk, it's always like at some event, and we're like kind of going crisscross and like never really getting an opportunity to really. Ooh, I see him in there. I see him wanting to join. And Mike, Go Mango, Hell, I think. Hi.
Hey,
Holy moly! Look at your face. It's been so long.
yeah, it's been a while, and there's a lot of hair and stuff going on because of
Wait, what's your
no,
quarantine look? Wait, what's under? How much hair do you really got under there?
a
Yeah.
lot more than usual.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
understood. We're in the same boat, I think. In that case.
Oh yeah.
Hi, it's been so long. I was just saying that like realistically, like when you and I have seen each other, it's been like this, or it's like an immediate conversation and we don't get a chance to like actually like I don't know. It's been crazy. So this is fun to kind of actually catch up with you.
Yeah, this is cool, and I think this is a really fun idea, and like sort of, we're all sitting at home anyway. We might as well hang out and chat or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Yeah, every time we do get to talk, it's like we're like ships passing in
Literally.
the night at like a convention or something, and we like stop, have like a 1 minute intense conversation, and then like I'm like, okay, I'll see you later. I'll see you next year. So,
I like
yeah.
the comment of the intense because it really does. Like we jump like right in. Like
Oh yeah, I'm like, you're like, this is exactly what's happening in my life, and I'm like, me too here. These are like, this is the crux of my existence right now, and then we're like, cool, see you next year.
Yeah, we'll see you. So we're breaking up the year. First, cheers to you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, cheers. Hold on.
What do you have? What do you got?
I've got 4 roses, small batch.
This is literally. Is this your thing?
Sweet unicorn mug.
Yeah, because
Oh,
everyone needs a unicorn mug.
yeah, I'm assuming my daughter had something to do with this at one point or another.
Probably. Wait, what small batch is this your thing? Like, do you have a?
No, so like 4 roses makes like 4 or 5 different whiskeys. Small batch is like mid-level. I'm like a mid-level drinker.
Is whiskey
your
mid-level drinker? Is whiskey usually your MO?
Yeah, it's either like cheap beer, like Coors Banquet or High Life, or like a better, like a nice bourbon like this, somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere, give or take.
Yeah, it's like cheap beer and fancy whiskey is kind of my thing.
Did you change your beer choice based on the coronavirus?
No, I don't drink Corona anyway, so it didn't really affect me.
Okay, just making sure. Some people did. Some people really had to like reevaluate their life.
I like that some people decided that somehow they wanted to drink more Corona as like to flout an international pandemic. I don't really know. I don't. It's an unfortunate, if I was on that marketing team, I would one way or another try to get my head above water.
Right? Like there's so much that could have been done with that. I feel like that totally went by the wayside.
If you were like, we're Corona and we're going to defeat Corona, like something, get some money out there in the street, make some masks, do something, Corona.
Yeah. Okay, so someone says they're drinking more Corona for sure. Steve, thank you for popping on there. He says, yep, anytime you want to come watch these, Steve. And there's been people already from Italy and you're in Germany. I saw. I think like your base is like completely expanded. Like your fan base is like.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like an international thing. We started, originally on YouTube and stuff. We definitely hear from people all over, and now Motor Trend has expanded into all over the world. So it's definitely different, from coming from being like a drift racer guy to now. It's very different. Yeah.
Okay, I want to tap into that a little bit later. First, before we get started, I'd like to usually start off by saying to those that we were talking about the coronavirus, to those who are not in the comfort of their own home, like you and I, is there anything you want to say to those on the front lines who are really working it, making it possible for us to be home and comfortable, if you will?
Oh yeah, I have huge appreciation for anyone that's out there doing essential work, especially healthcare workers out here in the Northeast. I mean, it's real out here, and they're doing serious, brutal, crucial jobs every day. So, thanks to every nurse and every doctor and and even, you know, anyone that's working in hospitals and first responders and everybody is just doing a very important, critical job. And it must be terrifying. And, you know, we just everyone in this country owes them a debt of gratitude and should be showing that for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, so someone just said they have your autograph. Isn't that so wild that like they have it on their desk, and like, could you even have imagined way back when that like somebody might have your autograph not only on their desk but like your face on a mug or, you know, whatever?
Not really. I mean, it's been a long, weird ride for sure. You know, the way I started out was like just a regular drift. I was doing something I thought nobody remotely cared about, and then like overnight people really cared about it, and we were like an instant thing. It's been a pretty strange trip, but no, it's cool. I don't remember signing. I don't remember bringing any desks up to like the signing, so I probably had something I signed on the desk. I don't know though. Right. I signed some weird stuff. A lot of car parts. A lot of weird car parts.
What is also? I mean, that's to be expected to sign a car part. What else like have you signed that is kind of like, oh, I can't, like, now looking back, you're like, oh, I wonder where that blank is.
Oh yeah, like definitely money, which I'm like, what are you gonna do with this? And then, because if it comes down to it, like, look, my autograph isn't worth $20, man. You should just spend that money if you have to. Or like, I think I've signed like casts and maybe some fake legs and stuff. Stuff like that. It gets pretty weird. A couple of body parts here and there. Usually pretty tame. That's it. You know, but it's been weird. You know, I'm very much a regular guy. So, you know.
Hi, Sal. Sal popping in here.
Oh, hey, buddy.
Sal, yeah, he's one that we have such affection for as well. Someone asked what's in my mason jar. This is sparkling water, but I went really, really wild right now and put some raspberries in there to really spruce it up. That one's for you, Tony.
Wait, you're not drinking?
I have to be productive after this. And like, if I have a glass of whatever it is, words become hard sometimes.
This whole thing is a sham. I can't believe it. You could have at least lied.
Well, what's the point of that? I actually do have rosé. I could go pop in a little rosé right now.
You don't have to. It's fine.
I mean, I could. I'm down. It's just, you know, you get it. Like, actually, maybe you don't get it. Words are hard sometimes, and then when you add a little extra alcohol to that, words become even harder.
That's true.
You get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so taking it back from
it's also like 6 o'clock here and 3 o'clock there. So.
That does get a little confusing here in the overall. I bet you won't. Okay, now someone's egging me on. Okay, this might happen. Yeah, okay, so this might happen. And I did drink at the Lake Geneva banquet. I did, and I got on stage. Yes, that did happen too. Okay, so Tony, taking it back, obviously from drift to where you are now in your lands, like, walk us through that because I think, like, there's a lot of your journey that a lot of people probably don't know. You've been very authentic. One of the things I like about following you and, like, following your journey is you are so real and you're authentic across the board. And I really appreciate the sincerity of that. But, like, what's taking it back are some of these, like, milestones in your journey?
You know, basically, I was like at the forefront of drifting. I helped start some of the first East Coast drift events, and like way back in like 2003. Some of them, the posters are on the wall for a lot of the Club Loose stuff. That's local to here in Jersey. So me and my buddy Matt Petty like went in. We were like 20 years old and like had no idea, and went to the owner of Englishtown Raceway Park. And at this point, it would be like saying like, why don't we do a medieval jousting event here? You know what I mean? It was just drifting was like not on the map in the Northeast at all.
Right?
Yeah. It was crazy. We were just picking it up from like Japanese videos and like magazines and stuff. And
but, like, how did it change? Like, what lit it up, do you think?
We went in, to be honest, this dude, Mike Knapp, who had just sort of inherited control of the track, who was like, you know, I don't know, in his mid-40s at the time, like, just said, okay. He was like, this seems cool. Let's do it. Yeah. So we went in, like, thinking we'd have this hard-fought argument, and, like, you know, we were not professional kids. It was like, I was sick as a dog. Matt Petty is, like, covered in tattoos, head to toe. He talks like a sailor. And so we were like, we want to do this, and we popped in, like, a Japanese video, and, like, 20 minutes later, the owner of this renowned racetrack was like, yeah, I get it. Let's do, like, what do you want to do, 10? You want to do 10 events this year? And we were like, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
He was like, I'll make it easy. Yeah, we were like, great. So that was it. And we had like 60 kids come to the first one, and it was like off and running. Yes. So, you know, Club Loose is the coolest, and that really helped put us on the map. And then at the same, like within 2 years, like 1 year later, there was like a D1 driver search that I went out to with Forsberg, and then the next year was the first year of Formula D, and we just packed our stuff and kind of like went for it.
Wow. And the Formula D side, I mean, I've had Jared on here a couple of weeks now. Actually, it's blur to say. I don't know how many weeks ago it was in quarantine. It was like now 7 to 8 weeks ago, maybe. But like the idea of like how just like the initial start of Formula Drift, and even in that process, like putting it on the map, what that kind of represents, the shift from having you guys involved, you know, Tanner and Samuel and Reese and like that whole group early on to like where it is now. Why is it the development of social media and digital to like really make it cool? Like,
I don't know. I mean, it's been like a weird, you know, I think it was definitely like a sort of a novelty at first, but it always, I think it was like a curiosity, but anyone that actually checked it out was like, oh, this is real. Like these dudes are maniacs and this action is insane. And like dudes are pushing super hard. So it's like a thing that was way out in left field, but as long as it was able to take hold because people were watching drifting even early on and were like, oh, this rips. Like I remember 100%, 2004 Houston event, and you know we were like rock and roll maniac kids. I remember like guys at that point who were like in their late 40s who were like clearly like muscle car dudes in cut off shorts and like Whitesnake t-shirts, and like Forsberg had a Motley Crue song as his top 16 intro, and I saw guys walk up and be like, oh hell yeah, oh, and watch like a car slide by and they're like immediately they're like, yep, this shit rules. So it was, you know, it's fun, it's a fun visceral thing. Drifting speaks for itself. So it was a really fun ride to be a part of. So yeah, for me, I helped start those events, and then within 2 years FD was there and I just packed my stuff and moved to LA and like, you know, tried to make a run of it, and you know, got to be on some awesome teams and have some great battles and have a lot of fun and be a pro driver, which was like a total dream come true. So that was cool. And then I got to spend a couple years as a judge, and I helped write some of the, you know, the rules and stuff and revamp some of the scoring system at the time. Did that and then hopped back in a car for a few years. And it was, you know, it's been awesome. And I just knew I wanted to do video stuff. I wanted to expand. I felt like I had done drifting and it was like time to do more. I wanted to do more stuff. I'm like a real universal car guy. I like hot rods and diesel.
That was what I was gonna say. That's actually what I was gonna say. What I find so fascinating, and it's how you went from drift and like the idea of like, well, as you said, influenced by Japanese culture in that way, right? And then all of a sudden, here you are, like in a muscle car, hot rod, like I mean, a Mopar no car kind of a vibe, even to a certain extent, right? Like, how do you, I mean, like, that's the passion and the enthusiasm behind what you're doing is these kinds of people. How does that shift happen?
So I think on like an elemental level, good cars are good cars and fun cars are fun cars. And I like all of them. Yeah. And just basically I'd grown up out here in PA where there's like a lot of hot rodding going on. As a hot rod kid, like what happened was my dad and my mom grew up in South Philly, and my dad grew up not with a ton of money and always wanted like a 68 Camaro, and they're pretty young. So I was like 12 or 13 and my dad was going to turn 40. And my mom was like, help us like learn about cars. I'd been obsessed with cars since I was a kid, but she was like, we're going to buy your dad a 68 Camaro. Find one. Find out enough about them and then let's go buy him one.
And this is like 14, 15. So we're taking it back 20 some years ago?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that's like, 25 years ago. So I was like, all right, I can do that. And I learned about them and I just got obsessed with like old muscle cars. I was like, damn, these are so cool. And then we bought him one. It wasn't exactly what we wanted. Basically, it never happened, right? We couldn't get him exactly. He's very particular. And like, he doesn't have the internet. So like, I'll probably make him a version of it one of these days.
Yeah. That would be super bad.
Yeah. We'll make it right.
Yeah, totally.
Eventually. But more or less, like, we bailed on the 68 Camaro project, and I was like, oh, I have to have, like, my first car has to be like a rad muscle car. And my parents had made me a deal. They were like, we'll pay for half of your first car, so you got to start coming up with some money. So I went, when I was 14 and 15, I worked 40 hours a week every summer at this local tire shop.
Oh, it was.
Lucky.
It was at a tire shop too. So like you was car. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I walked in. I had no experience. I was like, I can do this, and I'm pretty mechanically minded. So it wasn't hard. You know, I picked it up quick, but it was hard work. I was hustling my ass off. I worked with a lot of ex-cons. I learned a lot about cars. I learned about
Seriously?
a lot about stuff that wasn't cars. Yeah. It was like a real education at the time for a 14-year-old kid. And I definitely, you know, started saving my dollars. And what was cool is that my dad, again, didn't get his dream car because he's such a stickler. I was like, Dad, I have $900. Like, let's go look at this. We looked at everything under the sun. We looked at, I remember so many of them. We looked at like a 69 Cutlass convertible, and he was like, this thing's trash. It looked dope. And he was like, this is trash. Like, the transmission's flipping and it's garbage and X, Y. Like, we're not buying this one. Forget it. And then we looked at.
And you had $900. So this is about a $2,000 deal.
About a $2,000 car, yeah, in like the mid 90s.
All right.
So, which you could get then, and it went up and up. The more, like, every day I got a paycheck, I'd be like, look at this one, I can almost afford. So we looked at like a '69 SS Chevelle 396 car with like solid lifters, and my dad didn't like the sound the motor was making, and like tried to get into it with this guy. And again, that's a car, like, that's my favorite Chevelle. Those are the coolest.
I want a 70 Chevelle. Side note.
70 is also super dope. Yeah.
One day I'll get a 70 Chevelle.
They're pricey. I mean, those things are a lot of dollars now.
Dude, seriously.
So I like, that didn't happen. We looked at a '69 GTO Judge, like, you know, orange 4-speed, tack on the hood car, but it needed like a total restoration, and it was $6,000, which like would have been like every cent I had at the time and more.
And then some, yeah.
And it would have taken until I was like through college to get it done. And I was like, nah. So we keep looking, and you know, at the time we're looking through like classified ads in the paper and the whole thing. And I see a Dodge Demon. I didn't know what it really was. I didn't know enough about it at the time. I knew most of the GM stuff. I was like, you know, a kid. And we drive out, and it looked better than every car I'd seen. Like, everything I looked at was like, you know, kind of a pile. And I was like, oh my friend drove me to go look at it, and it was right off a main road, and we turned off the main road. It was like 3 houses in on the driveway, and I was like, oh my God, like, that car
is. It was shining. It was just like
shining bright green.
Yeah,
and it was.
When you know, right?
I was like, Dad, I found one finally, and like the guy, it was like a whole confluence of events that made it happen. Like, this guy was like, I'm getting divorced. I'm trying to blow this thing out. Like, she's been harassing me about this car for 10 years, and she's certainly not going to get like a piece of it. So I was like, Dad, this car is incredible. Like, I didn't know really how to drive a stick at the time. I didn't have a license for like another year and a half. So I was like, you have to see this thing. And I dragged him to look at the pile of garbage. So I think he was a little bit hesitant, but he was like, it wasn't far.
Yeah.
And so we went out, and he was like, this is the one, like, we're doing it. So we got it. I bought my car. It was like $33,550 or something insane.
God, can you even imagine what that would be like? I mean,
you could almost add a zero to it at this
right?
You know, like, yeah, it's crazy. So I got it, and I was like, this is the best day ever. We drove. It was already. Here's the thing, like, you know, it had a rowdy cam and like intake and a big carb on it, and it was a 4-speed car with headers. I mean, it was like a street strip car already.
Totally.
Or it was like, you know, what they call like a day 2 car. Like, it was warmed up for sure.
It was warmed up.
So he drove it home. It was like loud as hell, bright green, hood scoop, stripes.
So the green's still same goes. Like that.
Yeah, I haven't touched the body. Yeah. So it looked like that. And I remember my mom, he pulled it in, and she was like, if he gets hurt in this, I'm going to fuck him. Like, oh my God. I can't believe we're going to put our 15-year-old kid in this car.
Yeah, good. Solid. Send him away. It's better than playing football or hockey, whatever, at that point. Right?
Yeah. So we did. So that's what happened. It sat. I started working on it. By the time I got it, I think I was like 15 and a half. So I had like another year until I got it on the road. I snuck it out of the house a couple times while my parents were away. And like,
of course,
we lived in like your average, like, you know, 90s development on an old golf course. But like, there was a main road right at the edge of the development. So I took it down there once, and I'm like, I had the guys at the tire shop that showed me how to drive stick. by literally being like, here's a Geo Metro, pull it off an alignment rack, which is like mega hairy. And I'm like trying to like get it. I was like almost jumped it off the side. So after like my second summer there, they had me like driving stick cars around all the time. I was like, all right, cool. So I could drive my Demon. I pull it down. I like, you know, I drive it. I get it straightened out on the main road, and I punch it in first. And it like, it's got a big carburetor, and it like has like 1 second hesitation, and then it like takes off. I'm like, rah! And I was like, oh my god, like a little kid. I'm like, oh my god. And I remember just like grabbing the next gear and doing it again and being like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, after that, I was like, cars forever.
Forever and always, amen, for sure. Someone asked, real quick, someone just asked about bikes. Are you into, or would you get into bikes?
I love bikes. I haven't had one in a long time. Since I've been a dad, I haven't had one. But I've ridden across country. I've had a bunch of bikes. I really like 80s Japanese, like muscle bikes and stuff like that. I've had a lot of old, like 70s and 80s Japanese stuff. I've had like a 06 Ninja, and I had a 1050 Speed Triple was my last bike. I liked a lot when I lived in Brooklyn. But yeah, I think bikes are pretty rad.
Yeah. I don't know. I find it interesting though how you go from like I said, from that like extreme muscle into like what, not to say that drift doesn't, obviously drift isn't running on that, but like that total different, it's kind of like hyperbolic in a way on like how different those kinds of sets of cars can be. Was there a shift in your mindset to go into that, or was it just like a car is a car, get behind a wheel? Like,
it was super organic. I mean, I'll like take forever, but I basically went to college the first time. I was super young, and all I did was party way too hard. I bought like a VF 750 Interceptor motorcycle. I took it apart in my dorm room. It was a mess. They asked me to not come back at Thanksgiving the first year. I came home, and my parents were like, you got to go to community college. We'll give you a couple bucks for a car. And again, I'm like, car, what's the coolest? What kind? They're like, we'll give you like $1,000 bucks. I'm like, let's get the raddest car. What's the coolest thing I get? And I got a Volkswagen GTI, like an 86.
Yes.
And I was like, this was basically a race car. And I just started driving it around like a lunatic. So that led me to work. I was going to school a little bit. I went to like work at a Porsche shop, like a 944 turbo shop. By now I'm like 18 or 19. And they let me autocross one of the turbo worked up 944s. And I was like, oh, turbos are the best.
Right.
Rear-wheel drive cars are the coolest. And so I couldn't, this is where like it all jumped into drifting. I was like, I wanted rear-wheel drive turbo car. My buddy had bought a 3rd gen super turbo, and we'd done a little work to it, and it responded incredibly well.
Yeah.
So I bought, the only thing I could find was an RX-7 turbo. And I was like, this is me now. And I got it.
Here we are.
That was it. I was like, cool. And I just started like sliding it all over town.
Yes.
Tony making OnlyFans. That's not a thing that's going to happen. I don't think. Maybe if I get destitute, we'll see. But we're all right for now. So I was like, I got an RX-7. I started sliding it around town. I made like quite an impact in my little town.
I totally can imagine.
Yeah, and we were like raising hell and being idiots. And I met this kid, Eric Forsberg. We were working in a restaurant together, and he had like a turbo Eclipse. I can't tell you, like, my little town of like Doylestown, Pennsylvania at night was like the Fast and the Furious. Like, it was like every kid had like a turbo Civic or a DSM, and we had like rotaries. There was like a couple of big boy Supras running around.
So it was nuts. What was it about that area? Do you think that's a cultural thing? That's wild?
I think it was like, so there's a ton of hot rodding history right here and in that area too. And it was just like the kids of like hot rod muscle car guys who were like doing their own version of the same exact thing.
Totally. Interesting. Yeah. Like even like in New Jersey, when I was working with like Search for the Ultimate Streetcar, we would go to New Jersey, and they would, the motorsports park there, and those weekends they would have like sportsman drift, and I've never seen so many people out drifting besides at an actual drift event. And that was so like regionally, I wasn't sure if that actually had something to do with it, or. I mean,
there's a ton of racing out here. People love to drive circle track. I'm like super close to Maple Grove, but Englishtown was a huge drag strip forever. There's a lot of racing in Pennsylvania, and I didn't really notice it until it sort of like I eventually opened my eyes, and I was like, oh yeah, it's been here my whole life. So we had those cars, and I met Eric Forsberg, and I had given him a ride in my RX-7, and I wrapped it around a tree that summer. And his little brother Chris had a Blazer with a bunch of subwoofers in it, and it needed a water pump. So I put a water pump on it, and Chris was going to get a fast car. So he bought an RX-7, and he bought all my crash parts, and we put it on there, and then it kind of like went crazy from there. Like 2 years later, we were like drifting in Jersey, and then like 2 years after that, we were living in California as like pro drifters.
I mean, is that like, would you say that Chris and you, I mean, the bond that y'all have in terms of just from an industry standpoint too, but like, that's kind of like what, when people aren't in the automotive space or the motorsports industry, it's really hard to describe that like bond, that like.
I mean, yeah, we've been through, if I could tell you, like, we've been through so much. It's been like, you know, we've been friends for most of our lives, and we've been through thick and thin, and like been all over the world together, but also like, you know, it's crazy because you're now thrust into this international stage, but like with kids you like have, you know, slept on their couch or like whatever it is, like it's crazy. And I don't think people know that. Like I realized at one point, so between me, Forsberg, Chelsea Denova, and Jeff Stonebeck, like, there'd be like 32 guys from all over the world competing in Formula D, and it'd be like Swedish rally guys and guys from Norway and else, you know, like Central America, South America, obviously the European kids and whatever. And then there would be like 4 kids from the same town of Pennsylvania in the top 10. This is crazy. Like, you know, it's hard to fathom what that was like, but it was pretty rad.
Yeah. And then the shift into what I find interesting is the shift that people have from motorsport into TV. Like, not to say that like what a cool jump for you, because when you and I met, which would have been, I was thinking about this earlier, was it 2014 or 15 that we went to your shop, like late night shop? We dropped in late night, I thought. I can't remember, but it was long enough. Do you remember that?
Is that the first time we met?
Well, that's what, I don't know.
You're talking about the Motor Trend shop?
No. Like, I don't remember. It would have been, it was like 2014 or 15. And then you guys came over to the house.
Yeah.
And then, but we had met, like, we went on a late night trip around somewhere in, like, not Huntington. Was it Huntington?
Oh, that would have been probably Forsberg's shop would be my guess, or maybe Reese's.
No, I don't remember. But it was like, I thought you were doing something with something in some shop. Where were you out of?
So I still have my shop in Philly. When I last was racing for Scion, like 13, 14, or 12, 13, 14, I had a shop in Northeast Philly.
Yeah.
And it's basically just went out to LA to like try to do stunt work and stuff like that, and wound up getting this Motor Trend gig. And I still had my shop there, so I'm sure we must have met at somebody's shop.
I wonder where that was, because okay, so then that jump where we went from point A to point B, from you were on track, then you're in a TV, and I think this is where people really get like confused in our world, is just because you're good on track doesn't mean you're a good TV host, and vice versa. Well,
I don't really think I was great at first, for sure. But it was a weird thing. Like, I knew I wanted to do something different. All I ever really wanted to do in drifting was, like, you know, compete with the best dudes and, like, get better and better and be better than I was before. And I had, like, you know, a bunch of great finishes and did a bunch of stuff, and it was awesome. But after, you know, 10 years, I was like, I want to do something different. And, like, it'd be cool if I had a real job a little bit.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Is TV a real job? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like, you know, I had gotten married. And it was, like, time to get kind of a real job. So that was my version of it.
Yeah.
Was like doing, I'm trying to get the thing set up because I charged my battery. I don't want to touch it, even though I knew about
Friday. It's Friday on whatever week of quarantine life. Yeah.
But yeah, so basically, like, I knew I wanted to do video stuff. I talked with a couple. I talked with Donut, who I love. About maybe doing some stuff together. I think what they do is super cool. And then
I don't mean to interrupt, but I do actually. What was Andy talking about with the dorm room? And you talking about? Did you have a story with Andy about your dorm room and talking about this car showing up?
Yeah. So again, like, I went to college. I went to Drexel with Andy Laputka, who's one of the race service dudes. Yeah, I mean, it's like
a small freaking world.
A world. Yeah, so I've known Andy since college, and I showed him my Demon at some point, but yeah, at the time I was like all hyped on RX-7s and rotaries and turbos, and like we would take our cars down to the city once in a while and like blast them around on 95 and stuff. So I think I had my car and one of my Corollas at that point when I was like real into drifting through there. But yeah, basically what happened was I had done drifting and I was like, that was cool, but I want to do more.
Yeah.
There's just so much more out there. Like I want to drive trophy trucks and I want to do like whatever. I want to do all sorts of stuff. And I had come out to LA for like 3 months when we had those awful winters out here. And I was like, I think, I'll do some more stunt driving stuff and like stay warm and like see what's out here for me. And at the time, Finnegan and Freiberger were hosting Hot Rod Garage, and they would put online like, hey, Mike's gonna stay in Georgia and only do roadkill. We're looking for a host, like an open call, which I thought was wild. And I put together like a little video as they asked for. They were like, submit your video. So I submitted one, and it was like a little inside baseball. I was like at Hoonigan working on Scotto's Nova or something.
Oh yeah, it's kind of
I'm like, and I Mark Lunarden shot it, and he was already shooting their show, and everybody knew him. He's since passed away, but he was a super great dude who worked on that show, and he was amazing. So they loved him. So like he handed them my tape. So it was like, okay, this kid isn't just like a regular guy.
Yeah.
So basically I didn't hear anything for like 3 months, and I was like, I know they're like probably trying to get this done.
Super bummed at that
I wasn't bummed, but I was like working. I was doing all sorts of stuff. I was doing like extra work to get in the SAG. Like I wanted to like get a comprehensive education of like production work.
Yeah.
So I did a bunch of extra work. And at some point I'm going to post. I've been in the background of like every show you've ever seen. I've been in like Community.
Wait, you're in LA? That was when you were in LA? That's what you were running and gunning?
Yeah, I wanted to like know like whatever. I didn't want to like walk into a set and look like a bonehead, because like if you guys don't know, like production is all about like shorthand and like who's doing what, and like you don't step on anybody else's toes. Like it's very like, it's all driven by like dedication.
Another reason why you always are nice to everyone on a set, because you don't know when and how they shift around, who moves where. It's like it's production is such a small community in world in that way. You respect everyone for what their jobs are, for sure.
So yeah, I was doing extra work. Ray Donovan. I was a drug dealing gangster who gave cocaine to John Voight at one point. I've done all sorts of stuff. I did. I was also like a football coach on that show. I was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'll post them all up.
Will you please post? Yeah,
I will post them.
The community one of extra.
The community one, I'm like dancing like right behind everybody. It's a lot.
At what point did you think you may have made it? And what was there an extra on camera where you like, obviously the Motor Trend show, but like, or Hot Rod Garage, but like, was there a point in any of these extras where you're like, yeah, this is gonna be the break?
Not at all. Not at all. You're treated like cattle, literally. They're like, nobody looks at you, nobody talks to you.
Do you get craft services?
You get like the worst food. It's still pretty good. You get like $100 a day or whatever. But I just wanted to go. I wanted to do some work because I've done a lot of non-union stunt work, stunt driving.
Yeah.
And to get in the Screen Actors Guild, if you get a bunch of these vouchers, you can do like big boy union jobs.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to do, and I eventually did it. But by then I was doing Motor Trend stuff. But at the time, like, it was a nice, like, I'd been so hyped up on drifting to like to just enter a whole new thing and like really try to go like, okay, so that's like, I don't know if you like that's what an assistant director does, and that's what this guy does, and here's what like everyone does, and like, so that when it was time for me to like get in front of the camera, I didn't look like a total bonehead. So I really liked doing it. The highlight of the whole thing, I think, was like one of the leads on Community said like hi to me, and I was like, hey, great, big day for me.
Big day.
Yeah, like Jillian Jacobs was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, hey.
Made it.
That was it. But yeah, so I did that, and I hadn't heard anything, and we were like literally about to pack it up and go back to PA. And I was like, let me just reach out because I haven't heard anything about this Hot Rod Garage gig. And I was like, who do I know who could like get me in and get me an email? So I got the producer's email. This woman, Julia Smart, who's amazing. And I sent her an email, and she's like, I've heard your name a bunch. Like, why don't you come on in? And I went in, and unbeknownst to me and everyone else, they were like, look, we hired a kid. It didn't work out very quickly. So we like you and we think you could be pretty good at this.
Yeah.
But we don't know you from hot rods. Like, we know you from drifting and
totally.
import.
That's what I want to ask you about, actually. I want to, okay, anyways.
So yeah, so they were like, hey, here's David Freiberger, like a guy whose stuff I've been reading, like, instead of math books for like years.
Legend.
And they were like, go do a verbal hot rod test with David Freiberger. And I was like, okay, cool. Which was, you know, somewhat intimidating, but I'm a car guy and I had really read hot rod like a maniac as a kid and Carcraft and everything else.
Were you starstruck when you met him?
Not really. He's a very, you know, he wears flip flops and stuff.
Yeah.
David is a regular ass dude.
In the head of these people. You
Yeah.
know?
David is a very regular ass dude. I like that about him a lot. But he's an important guy. Don't get me wrong. He's done a lot of stuff, and he's, again, like, yeah. I had been literally, like, I was like, oh, when I was buying my Demon, like, I was reading everything you wrote and every Mopar article I ever wrote, like, about an engine, like, Fifth Road and stuff. So I just did this, like, he was like, what could you do with cars? Do you really know the difference between, like, a small block Ford and a small block Chevy? And, like, do you know the difference between, like, a 68, 69, 67 Camaro? And because I was, like, a real hot rod kid, like, I was like, of course, yeah, I know that, you know. 67 Camaros have quarter windows and 68s have one big window, and 69s are obviously different because of everything else, and 67s have chrome rear view mirrors, but they had to get rid of that because they were blinding drivers in oncoming traffic. So I'm like,
so you felt like you passed that test of, like,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And then he was like, well, what can you do mechanically? And I was like, dude, I ran like a low buck drift team. I can do everything. Like, you wind up doing everything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it went.
No way.
And then we were off and running, and I thought it was pretty awkward at first, to be honest. I was like, I can't do this for at least a few episodes.
Did you ever look back at some of those first and you're like, what was I?
Well, yeah, listen, nobody has to watch those. The first 10, nobody should watch them that I'm in. Absolutely not.
I often say the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, first off, they're like 11 minutes long. We're doing, like, all these weird projects that, like, not that I wasn't into, but, like, I hadn't come up with them. And so, like, eventually, at the end of the first season, I did, and a lot of it was the time. I was like by myself. David had gone on to do a couple other things. It was like going to be me and David, and then it wasn't. So they were like, "Look, why don't we give this dude a chance to, like, do whatever he feels like, his version of Hot Rod Garage?" And Julia really fought for that, and they were like, "Cool." And then Lucky, who's the smart ass already there, who's like my co-host now, like, we literally took him from, like, he was doing work on cars off camera, and, like, we just, like, moved him in front of the camera, and that was my co-host. And then we started building stuff that I wanted to do, like our Bone Marrow, which is like low buck LS, like how fast can go for 10 grand, which is like, you know, the question everybody asks every day. So that was it. We hit like that. We immediately, like, hit our stride.
And you guys had seen fit. Yeah, you felt like the chemistry and the camaraderie and what you guys were. The mission was kind of the same.
Yeah, and it was like I kind of took over all the creative, like, for Hot Rod Garage, I come up with, like, the ideas for the builds, and I write whatever outlines, and I, like, order the parts. I, like, line up the parts, and I order the parts, and then I'm involved in, like, post-production editing and stuff. So it really, you know, we host.
You really are wearing a lot of the hats.
I do a lot of this stuff, and it's great because I think I'm a control freak a little bit, but it also helps because, like, I really care about it. And we've done, like, this year we had Lucky, like, you know, sort of come up with an idea for a build and do it. But it's a lot, you know, it's a lot to take in and to do. But it's cool because we got a super tight team, and it's really small, and, like, everyone does a lot of different things. So, but yeah, that's really when we hit our stride. And it was weird because right around that time, I did a couple of big road kills too, and those always did really well. But yeah, Lucky's been great. Like, we have great chemistry, but it's like, I don't know how to tell this to people. I'm like, I know a lot of car shows are different off camera, but, like,
I mean, you and I both know a lot of people who are not genuine, not sincere. It's why I started this by saying one of the things I like about what you've done is you seem across the board, whether it be on social media, on camera, and in real life, like, the same, you know, for the most, you know, genuine, sincere in that way. And that's it. Top Gear, same way. Rhett, Adam, and Tanner are literally the same off camera as they are on camera. But there are some of those shows where, you know, it does have that, like, lights are on, okay, we're you know, the dance.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, it's interesting that does happen.
So yeah, we just tell people we're just two guys having a good time in a garage, and like yeah, sometimes we get cranky, and sometimes we just let the cameras roll. It's always fun. Like it's what I like about Lucky is I'm like a Northeast kid. Like I'm happy to like rib on people, and he takes it and he gives it right back, and we have fun with that. Like
Yeah.
I don't think Lucky can be like he's like a cranky uncle sometimes, and I'm like I don't know, I got cranky uncles. Like it doesn't bother me. But we have a lot of fun. And he's done a lot. What else I really love about Lucky is that, I'm like, I feel like a universal car guy, but Lucky's loves like Volkswagens and like he's worked on all sorts of German stuff, and he lived in Germany for a couple years. Like he does a lot of different stuff, and I think that's really cool. So he gets it too. Like, cars are cars, and like sometimes we want to build like super outlandish stuff, and it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But like he really gets it. Like there's just a lot more out there that's really fun to work on. So we have a really good time.
Okay, wait. I'm curious. I know you're sitting in an area that has some really cool things. What can you show us around a little? I know your phone's charging. Is there anything else you can show in your room there?
Oh, well, this is my office and my workshop.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So is there anything fun in there?
The cars are out there. Well, the cars are here, so that's pretty fun. Let's see. This is, I can flip this, right? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So East Coast Bash is like a once a year, 3-day event at Englishtown Raceway Park. It's drifting. We like party all night and then drive all day. And there's basically like campground showers and a bar by the track. I mean, it's amazing. This is one of the first things we were in. I don't have a lot of the stuff I've been in up, but this is the first Wired article. This is us as like kids.
Look at you guys, little humans.
That's Forsberg. So that was like the first thing we were in, and it was like, Wired Magazine is a big deal, so that was cool. These are some old photos of all of us.
Dude, so many good stories, I'm sure, between you guys. Like
we have done some stuff. What else do I have? Yeah, this is another East Coast Bash. So they always do like the raddest posters. You
guys think you'll ever go into is there any talk about you guys kind of going and creating something now?
Yeah, we talk about it every once in a while. I know Vaughn's definitely motivated to get it done.
I love Vaughn.
So I think it'd be really fun. Early on, like our Drift Alliance stuff was called East Coast Drift Alliance. So that's like some of we used to make our own shirts with silk screens.
Why, of course.
This is something I really love. So Mambo for Cats, my buddy Lindsey Ross and I always collab. Like he's a car designer. He's like immensely talented. We built his van on my show. It's like that 70s boogie van, super creeper, but like super cool surf van
like
style.
Ice cream van not gone entirely wrong kind of
it's dope. I mean, it's really cool. So we were like looking for inspiration when I inherited Gushi's Scion. Yeah. And I was like, I just love the colors and the vibe of this Mambo for Cats album cover. And it's like a super iconic album, and it turns out the art is even more iconic. It's this dude, Jim Flora. So just like bouncing around the internet, I found that, and that's the inspiration for what became a super cool Scion livery, one of my favorites. And I actually sent that. I bought Lindsay like a giant print of that from his estate. He's like passed on, but I sent it to his estate. I was like, look, we use your inspiration, like your dad's cool. Like artwork to.
That's really cool.
And they thought it was super cool, so that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh, it's the little things like that too, where like in theory you're like, oh, what does it really mean? But like it actually does mean so much in those little times.
Well, it's so cool because I was like, I just love this guy's art. It's like, all the way the colors worked, everything is super cool. And then Lindsay was able to translate that beautifully into like a car design. And I was like, I didn't love that car, but I love that design. It looked awesome.
So cool. Okay, where are we now?
We are in the shop. Here's my Demon. That's my first car. So this is some of the stuff we have hanging around. So that's we have to like
eye candy. Like,
that's a good one. This is my Drift Cuda.
So
I built that for SEMA 16. I can't believe it's 16 already.
Isn't that
it more or less made me crazy for like 7 weeks when we built it. And this year I will like put it together and make a real street car out of it, like a street drift car, because it's, I've always wanted a CUDA and I love this thing. It's just like when you get to these thrash mode SEMA builds, like you start cutting corners at some point, and I cut a couple corners at the end, and I'm like, I'll just go back and fix it all up.
Was it ever your goal to win anything at SEMA with it?
Yeah, I thought it would have been cool. I entered in one of the things, but it didn't seem. We kind of got a spot that was a little bit out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
and
thought
that
it would have
like
been
totally
cool.
dictates it. I mean, it really
Yep.
does.
It really didn't do great, but I just had my buddy Colin Wolf put like a super killer cage in it so that I don't hurt myself. And what else
Dude,
we did?
another thing, what's cool about Kudas is I love the following and the loyal following that Kudas present. Like someone just said, you know, it's my favorite Kuda, second to mine or whatnot. But like that's another. I mean, the enthusiasts of it, it's unreal. It's super cool.
I mean, it is the coolest car ever. Like in my opinion, it's like it's
give me the reason why it's the coolest car ever.
It's just honestly like so. They made a bunch of wild, Hemi Cudas were like some of the raddest, rowdiest cars. They came in wide. Plymouth, like all the Mopar stuff I love GM stuff because it works, but like Mopars are cooler. They're just cooler. Like the motors are more interesting. The colors were crazier. You could have got this car with a paisley top. You could have gotten it in like all these wild colors. Yeah. Like that's what I mean. Like they were just like cooler, doing weirder stuff. And I like, so for that reason, I love them. I've got my buddy Pat's Dart up here. This is like
I was going to ask, someone asked me to ask you about the Dart.
Yeah. So we've been working on this thing and shooting a lot of it for video, and we'll be able to put that out later. But, basically this is like a real 70s, like kind of, street freak, street strip vibe.
Dude, someone's sitting in their 75 Dart watching this.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
That's great.
So yeah, we've been working on this for a minute, and it's a cool mix of like old school looks and sort of some new school tech, but it's a real beastly car. It's got a 5.9 Magnum with a tunnel ram. It's got a Hemi 4-speed that we shortened up so that it would fit. But yeah, if you look at this thing, there's just a ton of. He's got like Stahl headers from like Stahl was like a racer. Jerry Stahl was a racer out of York, PA. So he had like right when they were closing the factory down, Pat bought those. He bought this rad tunnel ram. He's done just like, just so much cool stuff that was like, at the time he bought it like 10 years ago, like nobody cared about that vibe really, but he was pretty ahead of his time.
Speaking of vibe, someone says they're building a 74 Nova with that same vibe too.
Yes. Yeah. So that like street freak, street machine vibe is where it's at. I'm not in like pro touring. I'm not super into all that stuff, like pro stock, but look, like any of that sort of stuff.
I'm with you on that.
Doesn't really resonate with me. That was like, 2000s vibe. And I just love like, this is just like more authentic. And it's kind of like a time machine. Like this is what dudes would have been running around on the street.
Totally.
In like, 1980s.
Right? Like at Mecum Auction. We got to get you to Mecum Auctions one of these times. If you haven't, we go to Harrisburg. How close is that to you?
Like an hour.
Oh, you should come out. You should come to. It's one of our bigger ones too.
Okay.
But yeah, we get that too. The Pro Street. I too am kind of like I like the time capsules, like things that are like kind of like very authentic to the time period, if you will. But like, whoa, that's okay, cool.
Yeah, my Scion's here too.
Huh?
So my last Pro Drift car is here, and this is one of my favorites because it's just
tires.
Yes, it's just a series. This is like we do a lot of like fun streetcar stuff on the show, but this is just like a serious ass race car.
Yeah.
So that's like a very different vibe. So I'm hoping to get this thing refreshed. It's pretty clean and stuff now, but mechanically I'll probably do a couple things. But what
would you do with it after that? What do you hope to do with it?
I don't know. I don't want to compete with it, but maybe do a couple fun events with it. We were supposed to do some stuff with Finnegan out here, some drift stuff on a roadkill.
Yeah.
And with everything that's going on with COVID, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it'd be fun to put him into a car like this and just let him experience how gnarly they are and how fast they are.
Yeah. Okay, so you had mentioned something about like off-road and like wanting to kind of, whether it be run a trophy truck, I guess. Is there anything else from like being behind the wheel that you will want to accomplish, like you do in your time?
Yeah, I'd like to do some more circle track stuff on any level. I think it's really fun. I think the drift skill set is pretty similar. We built like a blow buck Roadrunner class drift car on my show last year, and it just fell apart. It was just like kind of garbage. And we kind of followed the letter of the rule book and showed up, and everybody else's car was like way serious. And I was like, oh, we're going to get killed out there. Yeah. Like we're going to get murdered out there. So, the car barely ran. We couldn't keep it running for a couple of reasons.
Dang.
But if it had, we still would have gotten our asses whipped. So it didn't really matter, but it was super fun. And I was like, oh, it's got a real drift vibe. Like it's very intense. Things are happening really fast. You're sideways the whole time. So yeah, I think it'd be really fun to do.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because I know that like one of the things I want to do is well, actually 2020 was my goal to get actually behind the wheel and go run in do some of like the driving schools just to do it. Obviously, then get my SCCA license. I really would love to get behind the wheel and actually go racing a little bit.
Okay.
I just didn't know. Yeah, but like doing the mint or something. I don't know. I think it would be really fun, and I feel like there's got to be things that like I don't know you'd want to check off the box.
Oh, absolutely. Like I would love to do like the mint 400 would be cool. I just want to do like there's just like things I want to do. Like I want to go 200 on the salt at some point.
You do.
I'd like to do.
Save the salt.
Yeah.
Save the salt.
There's just like a ton. I was like I want to do wheelies in a car, so I got to drive Stubby Bob and rebuild that, and we did some gnarly wheelies in that truck, and then we built this all-wheel drive Impala, and like I wanted to see if I can get it to go 9s.
Yeah, do you have it there with you? Someone just asked.
It's not here. No, it's down the street. It's in storage. But yeah, so I don't know if you know, but we have like a twin engine all-wheel drive Impala that I built on the show. So it's like it's a front-wheel drive V8, and we just took a whole nother one and put it in the back engine and trans. So it's 2 turbocharged V8s, and it's like one of my favorite things to drive because it's not like even driving a car. It doesn't do anything that makes any sense, and it's really fast.
But that's super cool, and that's what makes cars. I mean, it goes back to like for every reason, someone has a reason for their car crush, and I know that like that. By the way, I do want to do 24 hours of the lemons. I've always said that ever. I mean, it's been like 4 years. 5 years. I've wanted to do that.
I would do that if you want to build a car. I would do it for sure. I'd be on that team. It's so rad. I've never like. I was like, oh, this is nothing like what we do. I wonder if it'll be cool. If it'll still be fun to drive a slow car fast for that long. It's the best. It's like incredibly fun. The stints go by like 45 minutes goes by in like no time.
Dude, I would totally do it. If anybody in here wants to start helping on the sponsorship side of things, we'll get that rocking and rolling. But yeah, I think that is super cool about cars in general. Is there's always a reason, right? Like why somebody has their first car crush, or maybe it's because of the experience of just driving something that's like so outlandish that like it's mind blowing that it would be, right? Like super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I think everyone starts somewhere and it sort of stays with you. You know what I mean? Like I started, driving I love driving cars, but I was always working on them.
Yeah.
That's kind of still what's happening. And same kind of thing. And I started with hot rods, but I love driving fast. I love racing, and like I love all sorts of different cars. Like I bought like a cheap 911 for like a Porsche a couple months ago and did a bunch of work to it and made it a fun driver. And like people seem to respond to that when I posted it up. And it's like, I'm not building like any of this air cooled $80,000 nonsense. It was like, it's like a $10,000 911, but it's super dope and it drives awesome and I'm having a blast with it. But
totally.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that.
As it relates to like you kind of reinventing yourself and truly within your industry, not only from a driver standpoint, from a drift standpoint, then into like, classics and building and automotive. So you've kind of like covered across the board, stunt driving, etc. There's a lot of people though, I'm sure that like are still advising you along the way. And I'm sure you're trying to take in wisdom from others. That being said, what wisdom do you have on the flip side for maybe somebody who looks at you and says, I want to be like TA?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I tell people is there's really no shortcuts that I've experienced. Is that it's just like, find something you love doing with cars, do it as hard as you can. And if you're doing a pretty good job and like, obviously do your best to get it out there in the world, like people will respond to it. If you're doing something unique or extraordinary, like people are going to find you and it's going to be awesome. So I think like, if you want to go drift racing, if you want to be a pro drifter, like just build a simple car and drive it and drive it and drive it and drive it. And so you're, until the car is finally holding you back. So many kids waste all this money and time on building these insane cars. And it's like, speed time trumps all, but it's beyond that. Like if you think, people be like, well, how did you get this and how did you get that? And I'm like, well, what you don't see is like 15 years of sleeping on couches and like doing whatever,
Right.
like working nonstop and you know,
all of the almonds and the tuna packets of being broke and everything
yeah,
to get
dollars, you
by, for
know,
sure.
yeah, value meal cheeseburgers and whatever it
Totally.
took to get it done.
Yeah, understood.
So yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot now, but you know, I've definitely paid my dues, and I think that's what's important is like if you skip that, I don't think you can get around it. Like, you know, again, like you just said, there's plenty of people in this industry who are on TV who like don't really have the chops, and I don't think it translates great. I think people can see through it. There's so many good, authentic options out there now that I'm like, I think people are tired of, you know, someone who was whatever they did to get like following, and now they're like, I'm a car guy now, and you're like, okay, kind of.
Well,
So,
that's exactly like we talk about it from the TV perspective, going back to what you had mentioned earlier about like just wearing all the hats and understanding the full gamut of what production really is all about. And those, from an influencer standpoint, the idea of like people who have a lot of followers, but yeah, at the same time, maybe don't have the set etiquette, or the idea of like being nice to the grip, being nice to lighting, being nice to, you know, like, and the authentic version of what that really is all about, to your point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I'm super, super grateful. Like, I've lived a very charmed life, and it's been awesome. But you know, I definitely know that like you have to be, again, like most of the people, some of the people we've worked with, you've known for decades. So it's like really about just trying to be mindful and grateful of your opportunities and not get ahead of yourself and just have fun and put in the work and try to do a good job. So I've had so much fun at Motor Trend, and such a rad opportunity, and I'm super thankful for it. But I'll, you know, work our asses off, and like we definitely are in there late nights, and it's on my show and on Roadkill too. It's like it's just two guys sort of killing themselves, having fun, and I think you know, I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff we've done. So it's been awesome. But yeah, I think there's just no shortcut for hard work, for sure.
I think that's probably right. Is there any advice on when you hit a wall, not physically hitting a wall in racing, but the idea of like in our industry, whether it be in motorsport, whether it be in automotive, perhaps in TV, you know, what across the board is the advice when someone gets there? I know that like it's a journey on TV side to work through that.
Yeah, I think you've got to be open to everything. You know, like this version of what you want to do, like this isn't exactly what I wanted to do, but I love doing. You know, I'm thrilled doing it. I'm super. It is now what I want to be doing. But yeah, it's just like be open to different opportunities. Don't discount anything. Don't be like, oh, electric cars suck. Like, yo, electric cars are here, and that's cool. I want to do stuff with electric cars. I want to do all sorts of stuff. So it's really about like just staying open and like doing what you think is cool and staying true to like your vision. Like, you know, a lot of the stuff we did on my show that became really popular is very different than what like the other hosts were doing before, because they're different guys. Like
because you understand the value that you're bringing to the show, right? Like that's where you're like, I'm Tony, and this is who I am, and this is where I can be authentic and genuine across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, because we've all done so many different things, like, you know, a lot of the stuff that I want to build with David is like, I guess. And I'm like, that's cool, because what David's been doing is very different, and like he's so deeply rooted in like real hot rodding that like I think it's different, but I've been able to bring something a little bit different, and what he does is super awesome, and he's always got some like off the wall super cool stuff, and those guys, like what those guys know about engine building, I'm like, I don't know.
Dude, and it totally takes away from some Instagram's going to kick us off in a minute or so, but that totally takes away some of the insecurities in our industry that we have too, from an angle of, oh, we're easily replaceable, oh, it's this, oh, it's that every TV host, every automotive, every builder, every person has felt probably in some capacity. When you recognize what you can bring to the table, and from that advice standpoint, you know, you recognize that value that you bring, it takes away some of that angle that a lot of us probably have.
Well, like like you grew up as a real car person, right? Like you've always been interested in cars.
Always.
Let me hear more about your background.
This is that part 2. Tony, this is the part 2 that I was talking about.
We're doing that? Part 2? Okay.
No, we literally have one minute left. No, I grew up the elevator pitch. Grew up in Indianapolis. First, my mom and dad were directors of the Indy 500, so kind of grew up around cars. One of my first jobs was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
Cars have always been my jam.
Yeah, right? It's pretty authentic.
Yeah. And it's been a shift from motorsport, which was basically my bread and butter, from even a TV perspective, right, into automotive when I started hosting Power Nation, and then finding the balance between the two, which you know, obviously you found as well. Anything else? Because literally Instagram will shut this off.
Really?
It will. It's 24 seconds left. Do you have anything else to say to the humans?
Has anyone taken a selfie in my lap since Drag Week? No. Drag Week is, by the way, if you haven't watched the episode of Roadkill on Drag Week that Finnegan and I do, it's like it's maybe my favorite thing we've ever done. We like gonna get.
It's cutting off in 5.
Okay, it was awesome. Watch it.
Cheers.
I'm very proud.